Hey guys, it's Saru, and today's video is a little different than most videos that I've done. Now, I usually like to pride myself in being a positive gamer. When I do videos on here, it's usually positive. But with this video, it's a little bit more negative, so if you're not wanting to watch that, then step away from the video. So this video is about Elyon, the brand new Bluehole Studio's MMORPG that has just released on closed beta, and it's being published by Kakao Games, and the fact that it's actually a TERA clone. Alright, let's get into it. So a couple of things before I start the video. First of all, this video is sponsored by Bluehost. If you're looking for your hosting needs for Discord bots, Minecraft, or other video games that you're wanting to host for either PC or console, you can go to Bluehost, and if you want to sign up with my link, I'll get a little bit of a commission, and you can get more information on that in the description below. Now for the second part. A lot of the video that you'll see for Elyon was recorded by me. Now if you know my history here on the channel, you know that I haven't gotten a brand new graphics card because they're pretty much impossible to get. So a lot of the graphics are a little toned down, so please don't mind that. The game is actually very beautiful. Alright, here we go. So before we actually begin with the comparison, let's actually give it a fair chance. First of all, the graphics and the character selection or creation for the game is actually pretty neat. Again, please ignore the actual graphics here because it is toned down for my sake. So you'll immediately notice that you have 5 classes, at least in the closed beta. You have the Warlord, you have the Elementalist, you have the Mystic, Assassin, and the Gunner, and all of these can pretty much be every single race and gender. Now, I've seen a lot of videos before where it shows that you can only be like one specific type of like these furry characters called the Ains or Ains. I can't really pronounce it. But in fact, when you get into the character creation, you can be pretty much whatever you want to be. So you have humans, elves, the Ains or Ains, and the orcs. The character creation itself is pretty in-depth, a little bit similar to Black Desert, but not that crazy. You can't really develop your character as in-depth as Black Desert would, or has kind of set the standard now, especially in this day and age. But it's pretty good compared to its previous title from Bluehole, TERA Online. You can pretty much create your own character to be kind of unique, but with the limitations, of course, you can't really create that big of a unique character. But at least the cool thing is that you can go ahead and you can adjust every single part of your body, well, at least certain sections at least, to make him either thicker or thinner, taller or shorter. So for me, I've decided to make an assassin, and that's pretty much where it stops for me, where I got really excited. Started playing the game and I noticed some interesting similarities to that of TERA Online. For example, when you start at the game, you have this prologue that you kind of learn, let's call it a tutorial island of sorts, and you start fighting a monster called the Arachne, which looks very similar, plays very similar, and has the exact movements and mechanics as a certain boss and monster on TERA Online. Just take a gander at these movements. Alright, so you kind of see where he's doing, right? He's doing all these movements, he's doing crab-like movements, he's shaking himself, he's using his pincers a lot. I'm just going to use some random TERA footage here from Island of Dawn. This specific monster has actually been featured in Ruinous Manor hard mode for the second boss and a lot of other dungeons. Of course, I'm not saying that it's not completely unoriginal. There are some added movements here in Elyon, but just take a gander. So because of TERA Online, I don't really play on PC and I don't have any characters at all right there. I didn't transfer anything either. I do have it on TERA console and it's pretty much the same game in terms of like its base, well, components. So you see one of the monsters here that looks pretty much the exact same. It's called an Ovolith, and I'm just going to attack it once and you'll be able to see some of its movements and see if it reminds you of anything. Now you'll immediately notice that some of the movements were removed, obviously, but pretty much it's all the same. You'll see how it's using its pincers exactly like in Elyon. So this is just one of the things that I noticed. I thought either it's an Easter egg, or maybe, you know, it's like a little bit of a callback to TERA being like, hey, this is from our roots, but it wasn't just that. I noticed it for a lot of bosses. Immediately, the Skullhound that you fight in the prologue again fought exactly like another monster in the game. So just look at these mechanics, for example, or these movements from the Skullhound. You'll notice how it moves. Now the jump, it's a little bit different. Even the hand movement, it's a little similar to that of some of the bosses that you've seen in like Ruinous Manor, endgame dungeons and stuff like that. But once again, all of these monsters kind of based on the Island of Dawn monsters, so you can kind of train on them. But I mean, just look at this monster called the Fimbulwinsk on Island of Dawn. Now again, immediately you'll notice that some of the movements were obviously changed, but even the hand was added immediately. You can tell even the model is pretty much the exact same. Even the little shots that the Skullhound has when he just stops, kind of raises his head and shoots these missiles, are the exact same as when the Fimbulwinsk goes off and then shoots little missiles at you. Of course, the after effects is a little bit different on Elyon, but it's exactly the same thing. In fact, these exact movements are on other monsters that you'll see in TERA's endgame, at least previously. So I thought it was a bit too much of a coincidence, and I do have some contacts that were previous Bluehole employees, and they did work at NMAS and stuff like that, and I needed to know some information on this. So I did contact them, some of the people that worked in Korea, or some of the people that have now moved and they work in other locations, and they were so kind to answer some of these questions. And the reality is, yes, Bluehole actually did use the exact same models from TERA Online. They use the exact same rigging, the animations and everything, and they just changed the models a bit to look a little bit more different to fit more of Elyon stuff. So what does this mean? This means that they used assets they already existed on TERA Online, and they just kind of transferred it over to Elyon to kind of create a TERA 2 kind of vibe. They use the exact same monsters, they kind of changed the aesthetics a little bit, which is the most minimal effort you can do on it, and they just let it run wild. Now, I figured this was just one-time thing, but I started seeing gameplay that was released on YouTube, at least from like last year or something, from betas and stuff like that, from dungeons, and there were bosses that played just like Antaros from Antaros Abyss, from Sky Cruisers, Darken, and everything. I was mind blown. So I didn't think it was maybe just a one-time thing. Now, after you beat the prologue and you beat this location where you're fighting a dragon, you teleport and you basically end up in this island full of crabs and stuff, I noticed this horse, and the horse has the exact same sound as a horse that you would have in TERA Online. It has the same neigh, it has the same model, it has the same noise, everything. I mean, just listen. So that led me to believe that the game, when it was originally called Ascent Infinite Realms, it was more of a different game. It wasn't really a boots on the ground kind of game where you go ahead and you fight people and stuff like that. It was more you were in the air, you had these ships and stuff, and there was an original trailer about this. I feel that when the initial impression was pretty much this is bad and they remade everything, they just started using assets wherever they could to make ends meet. Now this isn't good, because the fact of the matter is they cut costs, and I would understand it if it was a, you know, continuation of TERA, but the fact of the matter is it's not. It's a brand new MMORPG that they're supposed to be bringing out, and it's not. It's a generic MMORPG, and from what I've played, it's exactly the same as you would be playing Skyforge, Blade and Soul, or TERA mixed all together in one. Even when you start doing the questing, you'll notice that you immediately turn into an instance that you've seen in Blade and Soul. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. Now for the combat itself, it is more like TERA Online. It has a bit more combat-esque, it has a bit more cooldowns and stuff like that. The rune system and everything is completely different. The skill system is very interesting. And it plays like a pretty fun game, like you would have fun, but it's honestly a generic title that was honestly just generated from past assets, and I personally don't like that. That is something that has thrown me off completely. I'm pretty disappointed at this specific product because it's exactly the same as TERA Online. And the bigger issue wouldn't have been if it's just speculation or if it's something that, maybe my brain just thinks it's similar. No, it's exactly the same monsters as TERA Online. Now there are brand new monsters in this game, of course. I'm not saying everything was just brought over, but it's exactly the same models. A lot of the models in the game are the same. Everything is pretty much the same thing. Now, I'm not going to talk about the voice acting in the game in English, which is absolutely atrocious. I thought I've heard bad voice acting, but this was pretty bad. But overall, the game itself, as a game, you know, ignore the fact of everything else, it plays like a fun game, like I said. It's a little bit too generic. I feel like we've seen this too much with Skyforge, Blade and Soul, and TERA, as I've said already. And it's like they combined it into one to kind of create this new atmosphere. And though it may be fun for everybody else, for me, I just kind of see it as it was pretty low effort, and it's supposed to be this brand new MMORPG. So I don't really think I need to go more into my impressions. I don't need to review this anymore. I'm actually very disappointed with how it's turned out. And it's sad because I was actually really excited for this and hoping that it would come to console. But the fact of the matter is that when you find out that even the code for the game is actually so bad you can't even turn it into console code, probably get a little sense of the future. Now we don't know the monetization of this game, but we do know that it's going to be buy to play. We do know that it's going to probably have a subscription. I mean, let's be honest. It's the same people as TERA, plus it's Kakao Games. They like to make some money. It's a publisher, it's a company, it makes sense. Eventually, if I were to predict, maybe a level 60 scroll or something like that that actually gets you near endgame, but not necessarily at endgame level. Of course, not the gear itself. Eventually, we'll see mounts and loot boxes, and we'll see pets and cosmetics and stuff like that. So, I don't know. That is all speculation. But that's just looking at the previous models of TERA. After all, it is copying everything TERA is apparently, so... Those are my thoughts. I'm sorry if that didn't live up to your expectations. I apologize if I came off a bit too bad on this. I like to usually look at everything with a brand new set of eyes, but it's really hard when the fact of the matter is the game is using old eyes to create a brand new game. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and click that adorable f***ing bell to know when I upload a brand new video. And don't forget to come join my Discord if you want to chat and hang out. Much love and as always, till next time friends.